I think most people know about the both famous and infamous Battletoads for the NES, the ultra-challenging platformer that led the way for famed game developer Rare to become the juggernaut of the game industry they would eventually become. So, with the home console and handheld market being covered with multiple games, it was time for Rare to try their hand at success in the arcade market, and they would use their successful Battletoads franchise to do it. I mean, Battletoads was a successful NES game, and the series was inspired by the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, who also had successful NES games. And they had two very successful arcade games as well, so it made perfect sense. Plus, making it more violent by adding in blood and gore to capitalize off the popularity of the Mortal Kombat franchise, which was currently ruling the arcades, would certainly ensure its success. Unfortunately, as much as it made sense in a logical sense, the game would bomb, and the Battletoads series was finished, and they would not make a resurgence until 2020. In fact, the games would not even be re-released even during the massive Xbox Live Arcade boom, when arcade games were being ported over like crazy, and Rare titles were there as well. But the Battletoads were lost to time apparently until the release of Rare Replay in 2015, a compilation of old Rare developed games. However, there was a little known Game Boy Advance title being made in 2011, but it was ultimately cancelled. So let's talk about the arcade game that flopped and basically destroyed the series for over 2 decades. So the Toads are back this time, and there's no rescue mission. No one has been kidnapped for a change, which is refreshing, and the main objective is to stop the Dark Queen. This game is just straight up awesome, and is a beat 'em up style game with really gritty, detailed, and beautiful graphics. This game looks fucking amazing. I really love the sprite work, it just pops out at you. Plus, something really interesting to note is that unlike most games in the series, all the Toads are playable. Rash, Pimple, and Zitz are all here, and no one is unplayable due to being kidnapped like in the previous games. The only other exception is Battletoads and Double Dragon. The combat is fucking stellar, and it is so satisfying to hit enemies and then kick them off screen with your giant boot right in the ass. Oh my god, that is so satisfying. Very much akin to throwing foot soldiers at the screen in the SNES version of Turtles in Time, and without a doubt, Battletoads took inspiration from it, but it feels different and it feels good. It really feels like you're connecting blows with your enemies, and the quality sound effects certainly help, and you will see just how much the violence has been jacked up in this game compared to previous entries in the series. This time around we have blood, and the rats' rib cages are left over after killing them. Zitz even inserts a drill into their faces. Damn, that's fucking brutal. And when you face off against these big rats called General Vermin, you will be able to grab their crotch and repeatedly punch them right in their junk. Wow, now this is something else.
That's perverse.
You can even pick up weapons and smash the opposition with them as well. You can pick up these metal poles embedded in concrete and whack enemies over the head and throw these explosive boxes and even pick up a gun and shoot away. Everything feels very fluid and fun to pull off, and the animations are top notch. You'll traverse through 6 stages and fight 5 bosses, and you will not be facing the Dark Queen this time. There's a good sense of variety with the stages, and some of them are gimmick stages, such as the Pit Cave, where you'll descend down a deep chasm, much like the Wookiee hole in the first game, and this time you will have on a jetpack, and the final stage is a strict shooter. The stages have really detailed backgrounds, and though the color palette is definitely a darker tone to convey the edginess of the game, there's still an expert use of it. It's a real pleasure making your way through these stages. You'll notice that there is no platforming to be done in any of these stages unlike the previous games, and while platforming was always a big part of the franchise up to this point, it's nice to have a more combat-focused game because Battletoads always had distinct elements of the beat-em-up genre embedded in the series, like in the very first level, the original game for example. I really like how they have a major upgrade to Karnath the snake, which turns out is just one snake. I think a lot of people thought that there were multiple snakes when this guy was featured in the original Battletoads and Battle Maniacs, and quite frankly, so did I. But it turns out he was just changing colors, but he's dropped the sandworm-like striped appearance for this game, and now looks like a badass snake, and if you get caught in his jaws, you'll see some true gore. It's cool to see a lot of these enemies and bosses get these visual upgrades, like look at Big Blag. He went from being a normal sized fat ass to a huge massive fat ass. Robo Magnus is the final boss this time, and boy has this guy gotten a massive upgrade. He's fucking huge! And he takes forever to kill. I mean, seriously, how many hits does this guy take? I feel like I'm shooting and goddamn, this takes forever. But this fight does look pretty cool, and I like the perspective of the boss as he's facing you. That's pretty unique. And can we talk about the music? Oh my god, this fucking music is so good. Composer David Wise, you big, beautiful man. I mean, this is just a tremendous OST. From the opening stage to this chill as hell score screen theme. To the Donkey Kong Country 2-esque music on the Dark Queen's battleship. To the rockin' boss music. This is without a doubt one of his best and one of my favorite game soundtracks, period. If I had to pick a favorite, I'd definitely pick the music from the Dark Queen's battleship. I also really love at the beginning of each stage how you get an incoming message from the boss of that stage. I think it's really cool with the music playing. It just adds to the presentation. It makes it look awesome. I just love those little touches in games like this where they just go the extra mile. They didn't need to have this, but they put it in just to make it a bit more engaging. For a game that was a flop, Battletoads the arcade game is pretty flawless. The game plays so well, is well designed, and looks fantastic. Plus it has a tremendous soundtrack to tie it all together. There's very few flaws to point out except for the fact that some of the bosses take an absurd number of hits, especially the final boss. It's a bit overboard, even if it is a short game, and sometimes the amount of damage an enemy can do to you with a single attack is fucking ridiculous. I would have been pissed playing this in the arcade and dying so quickly. It's definitely way cheaper than most arcade beat-em-ups and totally designed to be a quarter muncher, but damn, this game is pretty close to perfect. It's definitely a total recommendation from me, and anyone who loves, or at the very least likes beat-em-ups, will really enjoy this game. So guys, let me know in the comments down below. Are you familiar with the Battletoads games? Have you played the arcade game? If so, let me know how you feel about it, and we'll discuss it in the comments as always. And please subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bells to get all the notifications when I post all my new videos. Hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed the video, and hit the thumbs down if you fucking hated it. And I want to thank all my subscribers for your continued support, and any donations that you could give on Patreon are always greatly appreciated. And thanks again, guys. I'll see you next time.